Welcome to The Explainer. Look, if you're a project manager, you know that soundproofing can be a real headache. But what if there was a way to get it right every single time? Today, we're diving into a guide that shows you how to master office acoustics, not by throwing more money at the problem, but by being way smarter about how you specify things. So let's just get right to it with the question that's probably on your mind. When you see acoustics in a project plan, what's your gut reaction? Is it, oh no, there goes the budget? Or is it, aha, here's my chance to really stand out? Because honestly, it can be a huge strategic advantage if you know what you're doing. And check this out. What if you could promise and actually deliver top-tier, verifiable acoustics, all for less than 3% of your total project cost? I know, it sounds almost too good to be true, right? But it's totally possible. It just takes a small but really powerful shift in how you approach it. And that's the whole secret, right here. It is not about spending more, it's about specifying smarter. The old way of just, over-engineering everything with thick, expensive walls everywhere, that's just wasteful. The real solution is being surgical, being precise with your specs right from day one. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. There's one concept that you absolutely have to understand to make all of this work. And it's all about focusing on the finish line, not just the individual parts along the way.
All right, I want you to forget all the other acronyms you might have heard for a second. The only number that actually matters when the client signs off is the NIC, the Noise Isolation Class. Now, this is super important. NIC isn't some theoretical rating for a single piece of glass in a lab. No, it's the actual, real-world performance of the entire system once it's built on site. We're talking walls, doors, frames, even the tiny little gaps that can sink your project.
And this is where a lot of people get tripped up. The difference between NIC and another term you'll see, RWO, is huge. The best way to think about it is like this. RWO is what a material could do in a perfect, sterile lab. It's like a car's top speed on a perfect, empty racetrack. But NIC, that's the real-world performance. That's how that same car performs in rush hour traffic, with potholes and other drivers. You've got to spec for the real world, and that means you've got to focus on the NIC. Okay, great. So if NIC is the goal, the big question is, how do you spec for it without your budget just spiraling out of control? Well, the answer is a really clever, targeted design strategy. Let's break that down. Take a look at this floor plan. This shows you exactly what I mean. See how the walls have different acoustic ratings? The one-size-fits-all approach is where project budgets go to die. It's just so wasteful. Think about it. Does the wall between the CEO's office and the boardroom really need the same soundproofing as a wall next to a quiet hallway? Of course not. And this little chart here, this really spells it out. You can see the highest performance, we're talking an NIC of 45. That's for walls separating private offices where confidentiality is key. But then look over here. A wall that has a door and isn't next to a high-traffic zone, you only need an NIC of 25. That gap between 45 and 25, that's not a compromise. That is a massive strategic cost saving, right there. And this bar chart just makes it crystal clear. You're creating tiers of performance. You put your money where it matters most, that NIC 45 between those really important rooms. And then you scale it back for less critical areas. This isn't about cutting corners. It's about being smart and targeting your budget like a laser, instead of just, spraying it everywhere and hoping for the best. Okay, so you've got this brilliant tiered design, but a system is only as good as its parts, right? So the next question is, how do you make sure the stuff your contractor is proposing to use is actually up to the job? It starts with a very simple, and I mean non-negotiable rule. Before a single piece of acoustic material shows up on your site, your contractor absolutely must give you certified third-party lab test reports for all the key stuff. We're talking glass partitions, acoustic doors, the big-ticket items. But, and this is a huge but, this is where so many projects fall apart. You can't just take any old lab report they hand you. They are not all the same. What I'm about to show you next is probably the most critical piece of advice for protecting your project, your client, and frankly, your own reputation. Okay, listen up. Your spec sheet needs to demand what we're calling the gold standard. And that means the lab report must have 2 logos on it. Not 1, 2. First, you need the International ilac-MRA seal. That's kind of like the global passport that says this data is legit anywhere in the world. And second, you need a national logo, something like CNAS or TAF. If you only get a report with one logo, send it back. This dual logo rule is your ironclad guarantee that the data you're looking at is real, objective, and will actually hold up. And here's exactly what you're looking for. See this? Right on the cover, you've got both logos circled. That's your green light. That validates everything inside. And then, when you flip it open, you see the actual performance data. In this example, an RU Filican of 39 for an acoustic door. See how that works? You've connected your strict requirement to the hard proof. Now let's be super clear again. That lab value, the RW, is not a guarantee of what you'll get on site. That's the NIC. But the RW is your baseline. It's the minimum entry requirement. So your spec needs to say something like, all glass partitions must have a minimum lab rating of RW43, and all acoustic doors must be at least RW39. This way, you're weeding out any weak links before they can even get to your project.
All right, so we've covered a lot. Let's boil it all down into a super simple, actionable blueprint that you can literally use for your very next project spec.
Seriously, it comes down to just these three things. Step 1, specify by performance. Make that on-site NIC target the one and only thing that matters for final acceptance. Step 2, design with intelligence. Use that tiered approach to put the right level of soundproofing in the right place, saving a ton of money. And step 3, demand proof. Make that dual logo lab report a non-negotiable for all your key materials. That's how you kill the risk. So I'll leave you with this question. Is your current spec sheet really protecting you? Is it protecting your budget, your project, and your reputation? Because when you use a framework like this, you stop just buying materials and you start engineering a successful outcome. You're guaranteeing a space that actually works for people, and you're doing it while looking after the bottom line. And really, that's what being a great project manager is all about.